tuned in to the Andrew Lawton Show.
I wanted to pick up where we started off talking yesterday, and it was kind of a last minute change. I called an audible because moments before the show began, my colleague, True North's Alberta reporter and host of Alberta Roundup, Rachel Emmanuel, was very, I would say, rudely given the bum's rush out of an Alberta technical college when Justin Trudeau was holding a press conference. He was addressing media, but only certain type of media, not True North and not Counter Signal, which is run by Cian Bexty. This was a rather shameful display, but as I remarked yesterday on the show, not all that unsurprising. I've had my own run-ins with Trudeau's bodyguards in the past who have barred me from getting close to him, even where other journalists are permitted. True North, you may recall, in 2019 actually had to sue our way in to the leaders debate. This was not a Liberal Party event. This was a Government of Canada run event, the official election leaders debate. We won, but it shows the lengths through which Trudeau and his minions do not want any independent journalists questioning them. We were trying to get Rachel Emmanuel on the show yesterday, but I think she was actually in a dead sprint to get away from the RCMP when the show was on. But she did it, and she joins us now. Rachel, good to talk to you. I was exaggerating a little bit there, but you actually did have quite a serious encounter that started with the college's security and ended up with, I think, Calgary police and RCMP, did you not?
Yeah, I mean, it actually started even before that. Initially, earlier in the day, we had gotten word that Trudeau was at a hotel in Calgary. Eventually, we narrowed it down to the Sheraton. You know, you can kind of drive by the hotels, keep a lookout for additional security, unmarked, big black vehicles outside of them, things like that. A lot of times these vehicles also have Ontario license plates, so we knew a little bit what to look for. So we figured that he was meeting Alberta Premier Danielle Smith at the Sheraton, and, we headed on into the hotel there, into the lobby. We're very quickly asked to leave. Maybe we should have worn some security uniforms or something to look like we belonged. Fair enough. We waited outside. We caught Danielle Smith on her way out of a side exit there, and she was happy to give us a couple questions quickly. Of course, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith often speaks with media. She's very fair about that, and she also speaks to all types of media, not just independent reporters or conservative reporters, those that would tend to be a little bit more supportive of her policies. Then, we were waiting in a vehicle so we could follow Trudeau's motorcade so we could get the location of his press conference. And even while we were simply sitting in our vehicle waiting for the motorcade to leave, police was already giving us a hard time. Oh, you can't wait here. Oh, you can't park. You have to move over there. You have to move over here. Once the motorcade left, police vehicles driving in front of us very slowly. So we couldn't, get around them, get closer to the motorcade. Of course, then we were listening to the press conference. Once the question period of the press conference started, the moderator said the first question is going to go to the SAIT reporter, and that's when Cian put it together. Oh, they're at SAIT. So we went to SAIT. Sure enough, there we see his motorcade. So we're just kind of waiting in the building there for him to come down. We were going to just try to ask him some questions as he walked over to his motorcade. And then, RCMP, Calgary police, they're all there. They're all giving us a very hard time. As soon as we walked out of that building, we were listening to the press conference and we figured, once it comes close to an end, we'll walk out. We'll wait near the motorcade so that we can get our questions in. As it's a mere 30 seconds, 10 seconds, maybe even. He's walking from the building to his motorcade. We've all seen the clips of reporters following him from buildings to vehicles. And even that, they take issue with. They start moving the vehicles so that we can't even get a view of him. And then the police starts being like, you got to move further back. You got to move back. They're trying to push us back at us as far away as you can. You can see a little gap between the vehicles and the clip that you're playing. And that was basically as close as we were going to get. And even that they were, frustrated with. They kept trying to push us back, make things difficult for us. It was one of the most pathetic displays I've ever seen. And you can only think to yourself, imagine if they use this kind of energy to actually fix some of the actual countries, some of the issues that we have going on in our country, things would look a whole lot better. And then of course, I think it was probably 3 minutes before he finally finished that press conference and came out. State security came up to us and said, nope, we don't want you to be here. You're not accredited media. You have to leave. And once they say it's a trespassing issue, you do have to leave very quickly or you will be charged with trespassing. That's about a $300 fine. I know that Cian has run into that issue with the past during the general election when independent media had these same issues with, trying to go to NDP press conferences. So then it gets a little more dodgy and, trespassing charge isn't the most serious of things, but I think best to avoid it if you can.
Yeah, I mean, some journalists, I guess, probably collect them as a badge of honor. But at a certain point, if the prime minister rents out a hotel ballroom, for all intents and purposes, that's private property, and the hotel ballroom could trespass you. So I get why you moved outside there. Same thing happened when I was kicked out of what was it, Laurentian University in Thunder Bay, trying to attend a Trudeau event. Once they say it's private property and you can't be here, it doesn't matter that Trudeau's there or not. But I would actually say it goes beyond. It goes earlier than the Sheraton, because you had done the thing that you're supposed to do the night before. You requested accreditation, but they do this thing now where they on Trudeau's itinerary, they don't even announce where the event is going to be. You have to request accreditation, and they try to basically make it so that no one can do what you did by just not responding. So they made a concerted effort early on that you were not going to be permitted.
Absolutely. And just to give your audience a full picture of what's going on behind the scenes there is they've really started to lock these events down that Trudeau is at. They do not want people to know where he is. They do not want protesters showing up. Trudeau is hated in Canada right now, and especially in the West. And people tend to find out where these events are happening. They tend to find out where he's staying, and they go and protest. And so we've seen them really up the ante and trying to keep these things secret. I sent out a lot of requests. A lot of people in the province who are always in the know did not know where either of these events were happening. They didn't know where the meeting with the premier was happening, and they didn't know where that dental care announcement was happening. So things were really under wraps this time. And we just saw the police go to that extra effort just to make sure that two little journalists wouldn't be able to even so much as ask the prime minister a question, because that would be too much of a nuisance for our beloved prime minister. And we couldn't offend his ears with, some conservative journalists asking him some questions. We saw something similar with the Alberta NDP. They really tried hard to keep their press conferences and their announcements under wraps. But in that case, they were also trying to get the word out to have other people come. So they didn't do so very effectively. And we typically found them in advance. But it's going to be interesting to see what future visits from the prime minister to Calgary look like, because I think they've decided this is the new model that they're going to use, where they're just going to be super secretive. We couldn't even get information from the premier's office. The premier's office said, no, we can't share this. That would be a breach of security contract with the prime minister's office. So they were taking this very seriously as well. And I was a little bit like, well, what's the prime minister ever done for Alberta?
Yeah, has he earned that? Has he earned that from them? Just to go to the policy aspect here, we've seen this week, and I'll be talking about it in a moment, this carbon tax revolt being waged by 7 of 10 provincial premiers so far. Ground zero for that has really been Alberta. So to some extent, I mean, Trudeau yesterday was in the belly of the beast here, but absolutely unrepentant when he asked. He went on, I think it was like some 8-minute long rant defending the carbon tax yesterday at that presser, didn't he?
Pretty remarkable. I mean, Justin Trudeau is someone who doesn't learn his lessons. He's someone who doesn't care what the Canadian people think. We understand that because he chooses to stay at the most expensive hotels wherever he travels. This has been a controversy for the prime minister time and time again. He simply does not care about the cost of his luxury lifestyle that he's passing on to taxpayers. That's one thing that's been incredibly obvious for us. Another thing is even the simple fact that he won't allow a regular person like myself into his press conferences to ask questions because I'm not considered an elite accredited media. I'm honestly just a mom. I've got a very successful podcast, one of the most listened to shows in Alberta, if not the most popular political podcast in the province. And he isn't even willing to give me so much as a question or to allow me to enter a room that he's in, or probably even look in the same direction as him, if we're being honest. So this is a prime minister who generally hates Canadians. And so I'm not surprised that he's not budging on the carbon tax. Something I will say that is interesting is that I had Cheryl Oates on my show, the Alberta Roundup, yesterday. She used to be the director of communications for former Alberta Premier Rachel Notley, who, as we know, is resigning once a new leader is selected. And she said that the carbon tax is poison in Alberta right now. It's an extremely unpopular policy. She said that while she agrees with what the policy is trying to accomplish, it's just not going to be very feasible for politicians in Alberta right now. So here we even have someone who worked for the Alberta NDP signaling the fact that this is a policy that's really a no-go right now. So even she can kind of understand this is something we need to change direction on, but not Trudeau, because this is a man who is unwilling to admit when he's wrong.
Very well said, Rachel Emmanuel. Glad you emerged unscathed. No handcuffs, no trespassing ticket, but good on you for trying. Maybe he'll take some time before returning to Alberta because of your effort. So appreciate your time as always, Rachel.
Happy to be here. See you guys.
Thanks for listening to The Andrew Lawton Show. Support the program by donating to True North at www.tnc.news.